Most athletes run from pressure. Carlos Alcaraz runs directly into it. He calls it walking through the fire. And today, Bryson DeChambeau is getting a front-row seat to that mental masterclass. Welcome to the most psychologically charged episode of Break 50 yet. While the world watches Alcaraz's 170 mph ball speed, we're looking at something deeper, the mindset that allowed a tennis player to hijack a professional golf course. From the technical top-spin swing overhaul to a near-impossible hole-in-one, we are dismantling the strategy behind this legendary pairing. If you think you know what a champion looks like, Alcaraz is about to prove you wrong. The round begins at Lor Country Club and the atmosphere is electric, but notice the body language. Bryson is in his zone, adjusting his hat, checking the wind, the usual scientist at work. But Carlos Alcaraz, he looks like he's about to step onto center court at Wimbledon. He admits right away, "I go with meters." In a game of precise yards, Alcaraz is already rewriting the rules. Then the first shockwave hits. On a 290-yard par 4, Alcaraz doesn't just hit the fairway, he launches a missile into the wind. Bryson's face says it all. You can see him thinking, is this kid for real? This is where the break 50 pressure starts to bite. Bryson, the pro, misses a critical 10-foot eagle putt. In a challenge where you need 22 under par, a missed eagle on the first hole is a psychological disaster. But watch how the dynamic shifts. On the very next few holes, Bryson's speed training backfires. He catches the car path not once but twice, sending the ball out of bounds. The machine is bleeding, but instead of the team collapsing, Alcaraz steps in. He reads the greens like he's predicting a cross-court forehand, sinks a clinical birdie, and keeps the dream alive. This isn't just luck. It's the first sign of a champion walking through the fire when his partner is struggling. As we move into the middle of the round, something interesting happens. Usually in these videos, Bryson is the one teaching golf. But today, the roles are reversed. On hole 6, Bryson, one of the best in the world, struggles with his wedge. He's frustrated. He even says he wants to run into the water. This is the human side of professional golf that we rarely see. Even a scientist can lose his formula when the pressure is on. But look at Carlos Alcaraz. While Bryson is fighting the wind and the grass, Alcaraz is sharing a secret that makes him a champion. He calls it walking through the fire. It's a powerful phrase. Carlos tells Bryson that he doesn't just deal with pressure, he loves it. He says, "I love to be nervous. I love to be uncomfortable." Think about that for a second. Most of us try to stay calm when we play, but the world #1 tennis player actually looks for the stress. Carlos opens up about his hardest moments on the tennis court. He talks about losing in Miami and Paris, where he felt destroyed by his opponents. In simple English, he was getting beaten badly, but he explains that even in those dark moments, he looks for one positive thing to take away. This is why Alcaraz is at the top. He doesn't see a bad shot or a lost point as a failure. He sees it as a lesson. Bryson is listening like a student. It's amazing to see a golf giant getting a mental lesson from a 20-year-old tennis star. On hole 9, Bryson asks a great question. What was it like winning your first major? Carlos reveals that he spent 24 to 25 hours on the court during that tournament. 25 hours of pure, high-intensity running and hitting. That is the stamina of a predator. But then Carlos says something that will shock every golfer watching this. He thinks golf is harder to learn than tennis. Why? Because in tennis, you react. The ball comes at you and you just hit it using your training. But in golf, the ball is just sitting there. You have all the time in the world to think, and that thinking is what kills your game. Alcaraz explains that in golf, the less you think, the better you play. This is a $1,000,000 tip for anyone watching who struggles with their swing. As they reach hole 12, the chemistry reaches a new level. We get the legendary Vamos vs. Vamos debate. It's a fun moment, but it leads to a technical breakthrough. Bryson teaches Carlos how to turn the face over, basically hitting the golf ball like he hits a topspin forehand in tennis. The result, Carlos launches a 3-wood shot that is so pure it travels over 300 yards. Bryson is stunned. He calls it the best drive of the day. At this point, the viewers aren't just watching a challenge anymore, they are watching a transformation. Carlos Alcaraz is no longer just a guest. He is becoming a threat to the course. But with the score sitting at 8 under through 9, the break 50 dream is fatting. They need a miracle on the back 9. Can the machine and the predator find their rhythm before time runs out? As the sun begins to dip over the Miami horizon, the reality of the situation hits Bryson and Carlos hard. They are 8 under through 9 holes. In any other world, that is an incredible score. But in the world of break 50, it is, as Bryson bluntly puts it, pathetic. To hit that magical 49, they need a back nine performance that people will talk about for years. They need eagles. They need birdies on every single hole. Most importantly, they need Carlos Alcaraz to stay in dark mode. One of the most interesting things to watch in this final stretch is the technical advice Bryson gives to Carlos. He explains the clock system for putting. He tells Carlos to imagine his swing like a clock, taking the putter back to 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock depending on the distance. This is a very scientific way of playing golf, which is exactly how Bryson thinks. But Carlos, being a tennis player, relies on feel. He compares it to hitting a serve or a running forehand. He admits that in tennis, you have about 1 second to react. You don't have time to think about a clock. Your body just knows what to do. This difference in their sports is what makes the partnership so fascinating. Bryson is trying to turn Carlos into a golfer, while Carlos is trying to show Bryson that sometimes you just need to trust your instincts. On hole 13, the pressure is visible. Bryson is struggling with his speed training. He admits that when he tries to hit the ball as hard as possible, his control starts to fade. He asks Carlos if this ever happens in tennis. Carlos gives a very wise answer for someone so young. He says that in tennis, it is often better to hit the ball smoothly rather than hard. He explains that when he tries to destroy the ball with all his body weight, he loses the feeling. This is a lesson Bryson is clearly absorbing. Even the world's longest hitter realizes that speed without a feeling is useless. Then they reach the moment everyone has been waiting for, the par 3 challenge. Carlos Alcaraz has never had a hole-in-one in his life. Bryson has had many, but he hasn't had one on his YouTube channel yet. The stakes are high. Carlos steps up and hits a shot that looks like it was written in a movie script. The ball launches high into the Florida air, looking perfectly on line. As it lands and starts to roll toward the cup, Bryson starts screaming. For a split second, it looks like it's going in. It finishes just a foot away from historical glory. Carlos's reaction is pure joy. He realizes that even though he isn't a pro golfer, he can compete with the best in the world. This shot wasn't just luck. It was the impact lock focus that we saw in the earlier holes finally paying off. During the walk to the next tee, they share a very personal moment about Carlos's childhood. He tells a story about being 14 years old and practicing with professional players he idolized. He remembers running after them for signatures and photos. This is why he stays so long after his matches today to sign autographs for kids. He says, "The least I can do is just do that." This is the legacy part of the video. Bryson notes that Alcaraz is leaving a footprint on the world. It's a reminder that these two aren't just athletes, they are role models. While they are trying to shoot a 49, they are also trying to inspire the kid watching the video at home who might pick up a racket or a club for the first time. To lighten the mood, Bryson tells a hilarious story about Sting Pong, a game he used to play with his friends where the loser gets hit with a ping-pong ball as hard as possible. Carlos finds it hilarious, showing that even these world-class superstars are just kids at heart who love to have fun with their friends. This chemistry is what keeps the viewers watching. It's not just about the birdies, it's about the brotherhood. As they reach the 18th hole, the break 50 dream is officially over, but they want to finish with a bang. They reach a par 5 and Bryson decides to go full force. He launches a massive drive down the fairway. Carlos follows up with a great shot of his own. They reach the green and have a chance for one final eagle. This is the moment for the Vamos celebration. Carlos reads the putt, Bryson hits it, and it goes in. The Vamos or Bamos shout echoes across the course. They finish the round strong, proving that even if you don't reach your ultimate goal, you never stop fighting. Carlos Alcaraz proved that he has the heart of a golfer, and Bryson DeChambeau proved that he can learn a lot from a tennis champion. They walk off the green not as losers who missed a 49, but as two champions who pushed each other to be better. Alcaraz finishes by saying he's going to start practicing golf much harder now. The tennis king might just be the next big thing on the fairway. To truly understand what we just witnessed between Bryson DeChambeau and Carlos Alcaraz, we have to look past the birdies and the bogeys. We have to look at the champion's code. During the back nine, Bryson asks Carlos about the era of Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, and Novak Djokovic. These three men controlled tennis for 20 years. Carlos explains that for 2 decades, they split almost every single Grand Slam between them. This is a level of dominance that golf rarely sees. In golf, you have 50 players who can win on any given Sunday. In tennis, for a long time, it was only 3. Carlos is now the leader of the new generation trying to recreate that dominance. He mentions his rivalry with Jannik Sinner, noting that they have played matches where they were separated by just a few points. This is the mentality he brought to the golf course. He isn't interested in just playing golf. He is interested in splitting the spoils of victory. One of the most fascinating technical debates in the video is the meters versus yards issue. In America, golf is a game of yards. Bryson, the scientist, has his entire life calculated in yards. But Alcaraz, coming from Europe and the global tennis tour, thinks in meters. You might think it's just a simple unit conversion, but it goes deeper. It's about how your brain visualizes distance. When Alcaraz stands over a 260-meter drive, he sees the target differently than a golfer seeing a 285-yard shot. This mental translation is an extra layer of difficulty that Alcaraz had to handle while also trying to figure out a new swing. It shows his high sports IQ that he was able to adapt his power so quickly. We also have to talk about the smooth versus hard philosophy that Alcaraz mentioned. Bryson is famous for his bulky era, where he tried to become as big and strong as possible to hit the ball 400 yards. But Alcaraz, who has one of the most powerful forehands in tennis history, tells him that smooth is often better. He explains that when he tries to destroy the ball, his body gets too tight, and he loses the feeling. This is a massive revelation for a golfer like Bryson. It's a reminder that even in a power-driven sport, the touch is what matters. If you look at Alcaraz's short game on the back nine, you can see him applying this. He stops trying to smash his wedges and starts trying to feel the grass. This is the moment Alcaraz stopped being a tourist on the golf course and started being a player. Then there is the vamos or vamos moment. On the surface, it's just a funny lesson in Spanish. But for Alcaraz, vamos is a war cry. It's what he screams when he wins a 30-shot rally at Wimbledon. By teaching Bryson how to say it properly, he was sharing his energy. He was bringing the fire of center court to the quiet greens of Miami. And it worked. The moment Bryson started embracing that energy, his game started to stabilize. They moved from being 2 individuals to a real 2-man scramble team. They started reading each other's lines and trusting each other's instincts. This is the scramble psychology that makes this series so popular, watching 2 egos merge into one mission. Let's talk about the competition. Bryson mentions Stephen Curry, the NBA legend who currently holds a top spot on the Break 50 leaderboard. Carlos is clearly competitive about this. He knows Curry is a legendary athlete, but he wants to prove that tennis players are just as skilled, if not more, on the golf course. This League of Legends dynamic is what keeps the Break 50 series alive. It's not just Bryson versus the course, it's Alcaraz versus Curry versus the world. Even though they didn't shoot a 49 today, Alcaraz's performance put the rest of the sporting world on notice. He proved that a tennis champion's footwork and hand-eye coordination are elite-level, transferable skills. As they walk toward the clubhouse, Bryson asks Carlos about his favorite major. Without hesitation, Carlos says Wimbledon. He compares it to the Masters in golf. It's the one that gives you the most status. This shows that Alcaraz understands the prestige of sports. He isn't just playing for money or fame, he's playing for history. He mentions that he only gets 2 weeks of off-season. 2 weeks. That is the level of dedication it takes to stay at the top. While other golfers might take months off to fix their swing, Alcaraz has to keep his body in red alert mode almost all year round. The final takeaway from this 25-minute journey is about inspired legacy. Carlos talks about his idolization of pro players when he was a kid. He remembers the feeling of a pro signing his ball. This is why, even when he is exhausted after a 5-hour match, he stays to sign for every kid. This emotional core is what makes Carlos Alcaraz so likable. He isn't just a machine like Miles Russell or a scientist like Bryson. He is a human being who remembers where he came from. He tells Bryson that he wants to leave a footprint, and after this round, he definitely did. He didn't just leave a footprint on the fairway, he left one on the game of golf itself. So why didn't they break 50? It wasn't because Alcaraz couldn't hit the ball. It was because Bryson's own speed training made him a bit too wild on the early holes. It was because the wind in Miami was unforgiving. It was because golf is, as Alcaraz admitted, the hardest game in the world. But as they shook hands at the end, nobody was thinking about the score. They were thinking about the battle. Alcaraz said he is going to go back and practice golf even harder now. That should be a terrifying thought for the tennis world. Because if Carlos Alcaraz brings his dark mode golf focus back to the tennis court, he might just become unbeatable. In the end, this episode of Break 50 was a masterclass in cross-sport respect. We saw the tennis king get humbled by a golf club, and we saw the golf scientist get a lesson in mental toughness from a 20-year-old. It's a reminder that no matter what sport you play, the rules of greatness are the same. Walk through the fire, embrace the nerves, and never ever stop hunting the target. Bryson and Carlos might not have found their 49 today, but they found something much better, a mutual respect that only champions can understand.